Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of WCEG Talk Radio with yours truly, Honorable Valencia Stovall, with issues and answers. So, yes, we are into our second half of season 7, and we have an exciting episode today. Today is October the 17th, and you're listening to the new WCEG Network, WCEGTalkRadio.com. We are the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into the community. And, I must give this disclaimer. The topics and opinions are those of the show hosts and guests and not of WCEG Network. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram at WCEG_talk_radio and at WCEG Network. And we thank you for your continued support and make sure you tell a friend. So today we will hear from Linda Pritchett, who's a candidate for City of South Fulton City Council District 7. That was a whole mouthful. And she's going to be talking to us on the reason she decided to offer herself for public service. That's not easy, y'all. And we're also going to talk about some other candidates that are on the ballot, early voting, and then I'll talk a little bit about reaching across the aisle, an initiative that I'm working on. And of course, we have our special segment, Say What? Yes, I have a good say what today. Well, the last episode, I discussed where are the parents. We were trying to figure out where are the parents, who is influencing the behavior of the children. We touched on social media, sexting, bullying, and drug and alcohol abuse. And what are the laws in Georgia, just to name a few of things that we talked about last episode. And so if you missed all of that, you can always go back to October the 3rd video, go to the WCEG YouTube page, and you can be able to review and stop it, and then play it, and then review it again, and making sure that you're talking with your youth and young people about the importance of making sure that they know who they are, who is influencing them. That's very important. Well, y'all, politics is a part of our lives, whether you like the players or not. Everything we do is centered around policies and the people who implement them. Midterm elections are fast approaching on Tuesday, November the 8th, which is also happened to be my daughter's birthday. So, she's going to be, she's going to go vote. I'm going to make sure she goes to vote. Even if she goes early, then she won't have to go on her birthday. But early voting started today and will continue for the next weeks leading up to Election Day. Make sure you check your early voting location in your county. Many precincts have changed. So some of the early voting precincts you may have went to in May at the primary, they may not be the same. So make sure you check before you go. And you would go to my voter page, that's www.mvp.sos.ga.gov to check your status. You can also get a copy of your sample ballot. So that way you'll know who you need to vote for when you go. And just so you know, there are some constitutional amendment questions on that ballot as well. So you need to read them and make sure that you understand what it is that's asking of you, so you can be able to have a quick vote when you go in and come right on back out. An informed voter is a smart voter, which is why I have invited my special guest today, Linda Pritchett. And she is not new to serving the community nor elections. I met Linda when we both were candidates running for state representative. She was running in a different district, but we saw each other on the campaign trail many times at different debates or forums that were held throughout Clayton County. And of course, we stayed connected for the past 10 years. It doesn't seem like it's been that long, but when I was putting everything together, I said, 10 years. And she's always been a good supporter of my election, my projects and initiatives that I've been doing. I did do as an elected official. And she has a heart of service. She has been on the forefront with the formation of the City of South Fulton, that's in Georgia. And now the voters in District 7 have a great opportunity to elect a person who truly has a platform to build unity as the next city council person in the City of South Fulton. So welcome, Linda, to Issues and Answers on WCEG Talk Radio. Thank you for taking time from your campaign trail, because I know you've been out there knocking on doors. So tell the audience, why are you the best choice for City Council District 7 in the city of South Fulton?
Well, number one, I want to thank you, Honorable Stovall. You have been a very dear friend to me over the years, someone that I can always go to for advice on how to handle things and how to understand situations that happen, because politics is just basically a lot of different situations and how you manage those dynamics. So again, thank you for having me here today. My name is Linda Pritchett, and I am running for city council in the city of South Fulton. And the reason that I'm running is because, number one, I ran 5 years ago for this seat. And I was very passionate about the different things that I wanted to see happen in my community. However, someone else got elected, and he actually allowed me to give him input. We worked very well together, but he decided to run for a different seat. So now 5 years later, I have his support, as well as a lot of the issues that we still need to deal with. So I offer myself for service because I care about what happens in my community. I'm one of the people that notice everything that happens, that people know when something happens in our community, they can call me. I'm a problem solver by nature. My occupation is a certified paralegal, and I deal with people's problems all the time. And I really feel that I'm pretty good at trying to figure out solutions. Also, I'm very good at developing relationships, important relationships that I have developed over the years that I think are very instrumental for people in my community in District 7 to get things done. I'm also the only candidate on this ballot that has worked for the city. I have worked as a legislative specialist, handling everything from the beginning to the end on all types of committees, and I understand the legislative process, and also a lot of the internal workings and things that you need in the city to get things done. So I'm ready to serve day one without having to have a crash course or an introduction. I've also served in the legislature as a not as a legislative person, but I've helped. I've been a volunteer in the Senate and in the House, and I've learned a lot about the different needs that people have, the different concerns, and a lot of the different resources that are available to people. So I offer myself to serve basically because I care. And it's not just enough to care, but caring and putting together a plan of action that works for people. So I feel that I'm the candidate that can bring effective results. And I actually have a track record of things that I've accomplished because I cared.
Thank you. And of course, I've seen the work that you've done. Sometimes people probably thought you were elected already.
Some elected people think that I'm elected. They're like, what district is your district? And I'm like, yes, I'm not one of y'all.
Because of the work you have done with the young people, keeping them engaged. And then our senior citizens, you are always very mindful of things about people total. So I really want to know about how many doors have you knocked on? Because when it comes down to campaigning out in the field, I know only one other person, but they haven't run for office, but they did. But one other person that can really knock on some doors and seem like they don't ever get tired. And you're running neck and neck with that person. So how many doors would you say you have knocked on in District 7?
Well, I started my race in January. So I started knocking on doors back then. And we do these things called lit drop, dropping literature. And then you have what's called canvassing, where you ring in the bell and you're actually talking to the people. So in January, I started with the lit drop, but I have 3 male opponents. I'm the only Black female. I'm actually Hispanic, so I'm Black, Hispanic, female on this ballot. And so because these gentlemen are getting aggressive, because I'm sure that they're hearing Linda Pritchett's on the ballot, so they actually have to try to convince people to vote for them. Now they got me canvassing again. So I have probably knocked on about like 4,000 to 5,000 doors already. And I could tell you that I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. Yesterday, I think it was Saturday, when I had looked at my watch, it told me I had walked 8.1 miles.
Wow.
And when I was going to sleep, I felt my back in a way I've never felt before. Like, wow, you really support the whole body. And if you go out, we ain't going nowhere.
Right.
So, so I have knocked on almost 5,000 doors. That's like nothing like new for me. In 2020, when I ran for state senator, I had knocked on actually 20,000 doors over a year span of time. It seems crazy, but it just goes by so fast when you know that you have to reach people. So my whole thing is always reaching more people, making sure, more people see me, that I'm visible, that they know I'm working hard, that I'm out here in the community. And yesterday was a great day because a lot of people have just, reverberated that, like, Ms. Pritchett, we know that you're out here. We already, we voted for you so many times. We're going to vote for you again. So it's reassuring. And you also develop really good relationships with the people. When the people see you out there, it's a different look than when they just get something in the mail or when they just, see your name on the ballot for the first time without having a clue who you are.
Right, right. So since you've been out talking with the voters, what would you say is one of their top concerns when it comes to the city of South Fulton? And before you answer that, I know that I was in the legislature when the city of South Fulton was created, when the legislation finally passed. It took a while. And I know that you was, were in that mix, with that. And now the city has, it's been up and running. I know they had some challenges, but what would you say from the voters is the top concern when it comes to the city of South Fulton?
Well, I can tell you what the concerns are with the city, and then I can tell you what the concerns are for the voters. So the concerns that the voters have related to the city is that there just seems to be a lot of feuding, a little bit of drama, between the council and the mayor. That's a concern. And that's a concern that me personally or me professionally, that's something that I will not involve myself in. I want to focus on the needs of the voters, what's important to the voters, things that will improve their quality of life, things that will solve issues and problems. I'm not trying to take one side over the other. I'm trying to look at policy that benefits the people. But when it comes to the city, we have economic development issues primarily in District 7, because we have this big street named Old National Highway that has a lot of retail. And Old National stretches between South Fulton and College Park. The thing with Old National, though, some people have referred to it as Old Nasty. And this is just true. I say it only because aesthetically, by this time, we should look better. We should have advanced, improved on our beautification. I remember a time where Georgia 85 in Riverdale used to look crazy, and now it looks great. So if Riverdale can get their act together, get their economic development, get beautification in place, something as simple as cutting the grass, having trash cans, having a schedule to do those things, then we can attract the type of retail that we need. We'll never have a Chick-fil-A, Starbucks, or any kind of reputable sit-down restaurant until we create an atmosphere where people feel good about where they live, feel good about what they see, where it's well lit, where you have cameras, where the business owners reinvest in that community, and also where people feel safe. People don't want to come to an area where they think if they're going to park their car, it might get broke into, or that if they're in the area at the wrong time of night, that they'll get shot. And that's a reputation that Old National has. And it's going to take some work, but I'm here for all of it. I'm here for the work, for the plan, for the projects, Now, on the other hand, issues that people have in their community, a lot of people are complaining about HOAs. They have a lot of HOA issues. Since the pandemic, a lot of HOAs have been fining people that either had COVID or elderly people that can't cut their grass or can't get their trash can out the driveway, just little things, pesky things that people feel like they're being picked on by their HOA. Also, people feel like the HOA boards, some of them are declarant boards, which is like the builder, and they want to have, control. They want to be able to have self-determination in their communities. So I've helped a lot of communities figure out how to achieve a quorum, decide on board of directors and stuff. But HOA issues are a big deal in at least 3 subdivisions in District 7. And one of the solutions has been to refer them to the HOA Alliance to get training and to get the proper legal advice to be able to resolve those issues.
Right. Yeah, I know those.
I know you thought I was going to keep going on and on because it's a complicated issue, but I figured I'll stop right there.
Yeah, HOAs are very complicated. And I remember even in Clayton, there were a few HOAs that they ended up starting an HOA boot camp. Some of the commissioners and
Yes.
the city council, I know the commissioners did. And so yeah, it's a very complicated situation. And so that's very good that you're mindful of that, because a lot of times people might not understand when they're moving in those communities, what does it mean when they're signing up with those HOAs and those dues, that become due and all of that. So I have another question. Recently I co-hosted a workshop series called Making the Connection with the 411 Clayton County. And it was a partnership where we are kind of help training the participants to be able to understand their government and how the government works better. So one of our recent meetings that we had, workshops, was a budget presentation from the city of Jonesboro and state of Georgia House Budget Deputy Director. So they got a chance to look at the city and the county. And of course they were in awe, because many of them, that was the first time ever seeing or hearing about what a local budget looks like for a city. So, and they were in awe about how their taxes were applied to the budget, how the budget and taxes work hand in hand. So candidate Linda, tell us how important the budget is for a city's operation, and how will your job as a council person impact the budget when it comes to passing policies or ordinances in the city of South Fulton?
Well, the budget is basically how the money is spent, the different ways that it's allocated. And so as a council person, what's interesting about District 7 is that right now, the majority of the council, there's 6 people on there. They normally, get along, but there are dynamics where you have 3 on one side, 3 on the other side. So I could possibly be the swing vote. And that's a very important place to be when you want to get things done, because you're either working with, one side or against another side. But with regards to a budget, it's important that for me, that tax dollars be spent in ways and areas that directly benefit people. Some different cities have budgets that are very public safety heavy, meaning that the majority of the money goes towards the police and fire. And then you have parks and recreation, other municipal services. You want to make sure, especially with a new city, that what I think money needs to be allocated to is to infrastructure, because in a lot of District 7, we see a lot of potholes. We actually seeing something really weird. We're seeing a lot of sinkholes. There's a lady who her whole front porch done just sunk in the ground, and she hasn't opened her front door for 3 years. She's an elderly lady using a walker. She has to go through her garage. So I was on the phone with her the other day, and she was telling me this. And the UPS truck had a delivery, and she couldn't get out there fast enough to say, "Hey, I'm home. Leave it on the curb or something." It's just crazy. Sinkholes is something that I have to look into to figure out, how do you deal with this? And I spoke to the code enforcement officer, and he says, "Well, we have to look at that." The budget's very important as to where you put your money, because we have another issue came up recently where the city owed $2.5 million. Don't quote me. I think this is the amount, $2.5 million to a third party for building inspections. When, this is just Linda's opinion, there was someone that I found out was certified to do building inspections that was an employee of the city, but a whole department, permitting and licensing, a lot of people were let go. So if you put $2.5 million into those salaries and kept them in-house with their experience at working with the city and that kind of thing, or you outsource it, 2.5 million, you owe somebody. Is that the best use of your tax dollars? Because building inspections, how many buildings do we really have? Considering at this point now, our police department has entertained getting a lease of 14,000 square feet in the city of Atlanta, not even in our own city. So we're going to put money in another city's pocket, and yet we got 2.5 million for building inspections. Where are those buildings at? Could we have gotten one of those? I'm sure that when I get elected, I'll find out the real details, and then my perspective might be different, but it's really important that you know where the money goes. I know that years ago, there were issues with Clayton School Board and certifications and everything. And once someone explained to me where the root of the issue was, it started because somebody started looking at who has the contracts and where did the money go. So you always want to follow the money if you want the answers as to who's making decisions about what. So the city, one of the main reasons why I thought it was important for us to become a city is because we have this thing called local option sales tax, which is a percentage that's distributed from a certain, like 1 cent per whatever, that's collected, and only cities could get their share in it. And we were like the third or the fifth largest city as far as the unincorporated area, but we weren't getting any of it. So we needed to become a city to get $2 million. You can quote me on that one. $2 million a month that we were not receiving. So you're talking about $24 million as a city that was out there that we didn't get because we weren't organized. And now we're getting it, and we need to put it in the right places.
Right. It's not an easy task running for office, number one, and then also running for office as a city council person for a relatively still new type of city. There are a lot of foundational things that have to be put in place continuously. And when it comes down to the comparison, I think sometimes unfairly, South Fulton is compared to some of your other neighboring cities who have been in existence a while that are, of course, that were once unincorporated, but now incorporated. And so, being a bridge builder is going to be very essential for you in that position. So what would you say, is there anything else that you would like the voters and their friends and family members of voters to know about Linda Pritchett when they get ready to make that decision to go to the polls for early voting and on November the 8th?
Well, that's why it was very important in the beginning when I stated that I worked for the city, because I've actually had the unique opportunity to actually visit other cities and have presentations in other cities, and so like the city of Roswell has been a city, not Roswell, Sandy Springs has been a city for about 10 years. They have $100 million city hall, and it has an arts theater, it has restaurants, it has all kind of like great stuff, but it took 10 years to get there. City of East Point has been around for a long time. They have an $18 million city hall. So you see there's a difference. Sandy Spring has a $100 million city hall. East Point has an $18 to $20 million city hall. Now, it's based on their budget. It's based on their population. It's based on the needs and department. The city of Sandy Springs has a police department that may have like 60 officers or 40 officers, whereas the city of South Fulton, which is like comparable in size, has probably the same personnel, but they just don't manage their geographical area the same way the Sandy Springs, where I happen to work, is. And so, there are different things that I've learned working in the city as far as like the distribution of services and, the type of services that you receive based on the demographics. In District 7, for instance, we only have one apartment complex. The rest of the people live in subdivisions, where other districts have different dynamics. City of Atlanta has a lot more apartments, a lot of, a different balance. So it's important that you understand that one city structure really is based on the people that live there, the type of retail, the type of houses, the income, it's all kind of stuff. But you want somebody who's familiar with these things, not someone that just has ideas. I heard one of my opponents talk about, I'd like to see light rail on Old National. And I was just thinking like, okay, like you sound like you want the Jetsons to show up on this. You can't put light rail there. I mean, maybe 100 years from now, something like that will happen. But based on our current, the current infrastructure we have, that wouldn't work. But that's somebody talking about theories and dreams and fantasies versus understanding what you already have and what you really can and you can't do. And I do have that type of experience.
Okay. Now, quickly, as we get ready to close out this part of the interview, where is District 7? Kind of give me, give the listening audience an idea, even if you're using some landmarks as far as, it starts here, wraps around here, goes here, and because I know you said one apartment complex. So where is District 7 in the city of South Fulton?
So District 7 has about 13 to 15,000 people that live in it. Okay. And it's on Old National Highway after Bethsaida Road, up to Highway 138. So what's around that area is like, there's a McDonald's, the 50-yard line, that's on that side, and a bunch of different homes like Stone Ridge, Providence, Lake Royale, South Hills, which is like smaller homes and stuff. And then it goes up Bethsaida Road, and it goes into a community called Pointer Ridge that has about 600 houses. And that goes around Connell Road and up Bethsaida Road to 138. So that's one side of the district. The other side has Peters Road, that goes into what used to be unincorporated Fairburn. It goes all the way down to Millam Road, and there's a few homes there, not homes, but subdivisions. Then it's the Oakley Township area. Oakley Township has 1,400 homes in one subdivision. And Georgia Power's down there. One apartment complex is, I think it's called Oakley Commons, something like that. And that's at 5,500 Oakley Township. And then there's a new complex called Renaissance. That's where I live, where it's unincorporated Fairburn. So it's a mixture. I think we have about 4 zip codes. We have 30296, 30349, 30291. That was like unincorporated Union City, and 30213. So it's not that big, honestly. It's divided in the middle by Old Jonesboro Road, which is Highway 138. And so it's typically a residential area that has a little bit of commercial stuff in between.
Okay. So Linda, will you please type in, give us your contact information. If you type it into the chat box as well, go ahead and say it verbally, and then type it in, and so we can be able to share it, your information with the viewers. And
okay, so, wonderful.
Okay, go ahead and tell them how they can contact you if they want to get out there and knock on some of those doors. You have a couple more weeks, about almost three or so weeks left. And so they want to make some phone calls for you. How can they get in touch with Linda Pritchett, the candidate for South Fulton Council District 7?
So my website is vote4linda@gmail.com. Vote4linda@gmail.com. And in the beginning, you had talked about how to find the locations that you can go to for early voting. The city of South Fulton District 7 is in Fulton County only. So if you go on my website, I have a tab that says early voting locations, and we have over like 35 to 40 early voting locations.
Wow.
In Fulton County. You can vote anywhere in Fulton County, and you can even vote. I think there are like 4 or 5 college locations. I think there's one for Morehouse, for Clark Atlanta, for Georgia Tech. So you can really vote like every and anywhere in Fulton County for this early voting special election. But I also want to emphasize this. I'm a Democrat, although this is a nonpartisan race, but we always emphasize voting down the ballot. But this time, in order to vote for me, you got to go all the way to the bottom. Because since we are a special election, the municipal race is at the bottom because it normally would be on the odd years. So even though I run this year, I have to run again in 2023. But go all the way through the ballot, all the way to the bottom, and that's where you'll find my race.
Okay, so that was www.vote4linda.com is where they can be able to contact you. So you all make sure you go and check out Linda's her website, and she's on social media as well. And just, and if you have any other questions that or things that were just burning that you wanted to know about, definitely reach out to her. She's very accessible when it comes down to responding back to people that just want to ask questions and want to talk. So Linda, of course, we wish you the best, and we're looking forward to that victory on November the 8th. Remember, early voting is going on right now. You can, like you said, go to her website, vote4linda.com, to be able to access where your early voting locations are. Now, remember, on November the 8th, you have to vote at your precinct. So that's why I mentioned earlier about making sure you go to my voter page. You can Google my voter page with the Secretary of State's office. You put in your first initial, last name, your date of birth, and the county where you were registered to make sure that you know exactly where your precinct is. And you can also get a copy of your sample ballot so that you'll be able to know who you vote for when you go. And so that way you won't be confused about those Constitution Amendment questions and all of that are on the ballot. Well, Linda, we appreciate you taking time, stopping in to share with us your platform and those things that you want to see better for the city of South Fulton. And there was a question that came in, and I can answer that. They want to know, does a candidate have to reside in his or her district? And the answer is yes. The only time a candidate there is not a district per se is when it's a statewide race. So all the statewide races, you don't have to leave as long as you live in Georgia. You can
statewide or congressional.
Yeah, statewide and congressional. Thank you, Linda. Those are two that and U.S. Senate. So U.S. Senate, all the statewide races and the congressional races, you do not have to live in a particular district. But for city council, state representative, state senator, any of the county elections, you have to stay in the county. But those specific for commissioners and city council, state rep, and state senate, you have to live within that district of where you're running in. And if you don't, that's a violation of state law. We're not going to go into that at this particular time on this particular show. But thank you so very much, Linda, for joining us. We wish you the best. And so now I'm going to move right into my other announcements and everything that I have for the remainder of this show. And so, Linda, you're welcome to stay on, or if you need to leave and hop off, we definitely understand. We won't get offended if you need to do that. But thank you so very much.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me, and we'll be talking very soon.
Yes. All right, so I talked about the sample ballot, And I wanted to kind of tell you all some of those Constitution Amendment questions that are on there. I have a little time to be able to run through them quickly. So one of them is provides for the suspension of compensation of certain state officers and members of the General Assembly. So this was Senate Resolution number 134. And so it says, shall the Constitution of Georgia be amended as to suspend the compensation of the governor, lieutenant governor, Secretary of State, Attorney General, State School Superintendent, Commissioner of Insurance, Commissioner of Agriculture, Commissioner of Labor, or any member of the General Assembly while such individual is suspended from office following an indictment for a felony. So in layman's terms, what it's saying is, should the Constitution of Georgia be amended or changed to now say that if any of the previous positions I just named, if any of them are suspended from their office following an indictment for a felony, should their compensation be suspended as well? So should they get paid while they're suspended following by being indicted? Not found guilty, because if you're found guilty of a felony, you're automatically disqualified to hold office. But what this is talking about is an indictment that has come down for a felony, and you're suspended from your office. Should you still be receiving money, taxpayer money? So that's the first one. The second one is, shall the Constitution of Georgia be amended to provide that the governing authority of each county, municipality, consolidated government, and board of education of each independent or county school system in this state be authorized to grant temporary tax relief to properties within its jurisdiction which are severely damaged or destroyed as a result of a disaster and located within a nationally declared disaster area. Okay, what that means in short version is that should the Constitution of Georgia be changed so that if there's an area located in Georgia that has been damaged severely or destroyed because of a disaster or natural disaster within a declared area, should they be granted temporary tax relief? That's all what they're saying for number two. All right, next. Shall this act be approved, which grants a statewide exemption from all ad valorem taxes for certain equipment used by timber producers in the production or harvest of timber? So this particular one is saying, should the Constitution of Georgia be amended to allow for a statewide, that means across the state, exemption? That means you're exempted from that. You don't have to pay taxes for ad valorem taxes for certain equipment that they're using as timber producers or as harvesting of timber. You know, this came about, I'm pretty sure, because of the shortage when it came down when COVID happened and all that. There was a shortage when it came down to the production of timber and wood in the state. And that's one of our major products that we produce in Georgia, because, you know, we're agriculture state. So that's that one. The next one says, shall the act, which expands a statewide exemption of ad valorem for agriculture equipment and certain farm products held by certain entities, include entities comprising of two or more family-owned farm entities, which adds dairy products and unfertilized eggs or poultry as qualified farm products with respect to exemption. So should some entities, which may be two or more family-owned farms, should they be exempted if they have dairy products and unfertilized eggs, which is qualified as farm products? Should they be exempted from ad valorem tax? So should they not have to pay tax on that? That's that one. The last one is, shall the governing authority of the city of Atlanta, this is the only one for Atlanta, be authorized to permit and regulate Sunday sales of malt beverages, wine, and distilled spirits by drink? So this one, so in some of you all cities or areas, you may have one particular Constitution amendment or local ordinance that needs to change for your specific area where you live. So that you may find that on there. But there are four Constitution amendment questions. That means that you as the voter have to agree, even though the General Assembly passed it and the governor signed it to be an amendment, you as the voters have to say that you want the Constitution changed. So General Assembly just can't go in and change the Constitution without you as a voter. That's why we live in a democracy. That's a good thing about it. And your vote is what is going to make a difference as to whether those constitutional amendments will pass or whether they will fail. All right, we're getting on down to it. We have a few more minutes left. And we appreciate Linda Pritchett for stopping in. You all make sure you're checking out about her website and everything that she wants to do as a city council person. All right, we're going into the Say What. Now, you all have been inundated with all these commercials after commercials after commercials, phone calls, mailers. Oh my goodness, I love election time, of course, because whenever I'm running. But even when I'm not running, it's so much that goes into it as a voter. So many decisions that you have to make. So this Say What says, do you believe either of the U.S. Senate candidates are womanizers? So you all been seeing these commercials coming on. Well, on Wednesday, we were watching the Braves game, the playoff, and I saw the commercial of Warnock's wife accusing him of mistreatment. And of course, she was referring to an incident in 2020 when he ran for U.S. Senate for the first time. Now, that at the same time running, that commercial was running. It was another commercial accusing Herschel Walker, of paying for a woman's abortion and doing some other mistreatment of women. Could it be that both kettles and pots are calling each other black? We don't know. So who would be worse, an ex-football player womanizing or a preacher elected official womanizing as your U.S. Senator? And yes, you do have a third person that you can select, which is one of the libertarians that's running. But if you're looking at whether you're going to vote Republican or Democrat, and I always say, you vote who you think is the best. It doesn't matter whether they're Republican or Democrat. But that's my Say What. Who would be worse, an ex-football player womanizing or a preacher elected official womanizing? Say what? Yeah, voters, you have to decide. And to start today, people will start to decide who is better, which one, which kettle or the pot. Both of them are black, the color black. And I'm not talking about the skin color. All right, so next. Okay, now I watched the U.S. Senate debate on Friday evening. Woo! Yes, I did. Who agrees with me that Herschel Walker came out the corner swinging on Warnock? I think by watching Warnock's reaction, he was caught off guard and couldn't seem to regroup himself during that debate. I think that they were not anticipating, as a day, Warnock's team was not anticipating that Herschel was going to be, Walker was going to be ready. Yes, I believe, in my own opinion, he was prepped very, very well. He probably spent hours and hours with the top debate consultant there is probably in the country to get him ready. And so now, but you think about it, wasn't Warnock aggressive during the 2020 U.S. Senate debate with Kelly Loeffler and Collins when they run? Yeah. So the same thing. Yeah, I was watching in 2020 because, of course, I was a candidate in that race. So you have to be careful what you dish out because you will surely get it back. So that a lot of people are like, oh, Walker should not have been saying that or being aggressive towards Warnock. Go back and look at the recording when Warnock was running in that special election with Kelly Loeffler and Collins when he was in the debate on the debate stage. Say what? Yeah, say what? So now, could the Libertarian candidates receive enough votes to throw the governor's race, U.S. Senate, and a couple of races into a runoff? You're gonna have to be looking because there's still a huge amount of people who are undecided. And those undecided, a lot of them are independents. That means they're not declaring that they're Republican or Democrat. And remember, for the general election, you did not have to pull a certain party ticket or ballot. You didn't have to say, I'm a Democrat, I want this Democratic ballot, or I'm a Republican, I want a Republican ballot. So anybody can vote. You can crisscross on your vote. You don't have to vote all Democrats. You don't have to vote all Republicans. You can mix it up. So it's going to be very interesting. Then those who say, I don't like neither candidate for governor, I'm going to go with the third party. You have that choice as someone who's voting. So looking at the governor's race, the U.S. Senate race, and there are a couple of other races that could be thrown into a runoff. And you all remember, a candidate has to receive 50% plus one to be declared the winner. So which voters would you think are going to come back out? So if the Democrats don't get 50% plus one, nor the Republicans, because the Libertarian candidate has thrown them into a runoff, who do you think, what voters are going to come back out? That's going to be something to be determined. A runoff means, of course, continuous political ads, mailers, phone calls for another 4 weeks after November the 8th. Say what? Oh, yes. Somebody said, Lordy, Lordy, Lordy. Yes, it's coming. It's coming. So you make sure you do your part. But there's a lot of people that just undecided. And even when you're looking at the polls, even if you look at both races, you look at the governor's race, how close the polls are with an incumbent that's been there 4 years. He's trying to do a second term. And then you look at Warnock, who's an incumbent, him being so close in the polls, even with Walker, that's astonishing. So it's going to be interesting watching what's going on. So, you know, I mentioned when the season kicked off that I was appointed by Speaker Ralston to a 4-year term on the Martin Luther King Jr. Advisory Council. So this council was created by the General Assembly, the Georgia General Assembly, to commemorate the King holiday and other special projects. Well, this past week, I was elected as vice chair. Yay! So I'm excited and most of all honored to be in a position to honor Dr. King's legacy and work, and also being alongside distinguished individuals on this council who have been appointed. And how the appointment goes, the governor makes an appointment, lieutenant governor makes an appointment, speaker of the house makes an appointment, which I was his appointee, and that's it. So those are the ones that are appointing the people to serve on this particular advisory council. And someone from Georgia Department of Community Affairs, DCA, also serves on there. And this particular council actually sits up under the umbrella of DCA. So we have this event that's coming up. It's held every year, January the 13th, which is the Friday before the King holiday. It'll be held at the Georgia State Capitol. So you'll hear me some more talking about it and about who our guest speaker is going to be, who are the awardees, who will be awarded awards at this event. It's a big, big event. And I am so honored and so appreciative to Speaker Ralston to nominate me and appoint me to this position and not being an elected official or anything. So that shows that you have to keep working. You know, you have a heart of service. People can see past all the other stuff. All right, tonight, everybody say tonight, mark your calendar for a special conversation on reaching across the aisle. And we're going to be on Clubhouse at 7 p.m. Yeah, I know that's the same time that the gubernatorial debate is going to start with the Atlanta Press Club and with GPB. So we're going to be diving into that debate and speaking on why election integrity is an issue, and with all the political parties, not just one. So a lot of times you all been hearing a lot of things on the commercials talking about, or even with these different hearings that are going on, and it's like it's focusing towards one particular party. No, it's both parties when it comes to election integrity. So you want to know, what is election integrity? We keep hearing it. Well, join me on Clubhouse tonight. If you go to you could go to the website. We have a less than 5 minute survey for you to complete. www.reachingacrosstheaisle.info. It's reachingacrosstheaisle.info to get it. Now I'll put that into the comment box once we finish. But join us tonight. We're going to be commentating on what's going on, what was said in this gubernatorial debate tonight. Yes, at 7 o'clock. I'm also co-presenting, you heard me talk earlier, for making a connection. What's the 411 Clayton County? We meet twice a month until February 2023. Tomorrow night, we will be at the Clayton County Board of Commissioners meeting at 6:30. And our last meeting we had was very informative. You heard me talk about it earlier with Ken and Linda, where they learned how the budget impacts them. So now they're going to an actual Clayton County Commissioners meeting to see how that budget is now implemented by the elected officials that they voted for or did not vote for. So it's going to be very interesting to see and hear their feedback after they leave that particular meeting. Okay, Friday, October the 21st at 12 p.m. This Friday, there's going to be a virtual town hall for homeschool and virtual parents. There's a town hall especially for them. It'll be hosted by Dr. Sheba Quinn, Dr. Anise Mabry, and myself, with a convo with Georgia State Superintendent candidate Alicia Thomas Searcy. So you can be able to go to the website searcyforsuperintendent.com. That's SEARCYFOR, the word superintendent.com, to get the login. It will be on Zoom, but I'll also be streaming it from my Facebook page as well. So, you know, we don't have just traditional public and private school. We have some homeschool parents and virtual parents that have issues with what's going on with educating their children and working with their local school district and their home school. So there are a lot of challenges that they're facing because of their choice. And parents have that right and that choice. All right. So, of course, you know, time has caught us. All good things must come to an end, but don't fret, because we will be back on November the 7th. And that's the day before the election. So you know what we're going to be talking about is election stuff. And we're going to have some more great topics. I'm working to try to see if we can get a libertarian candidate to come on and talk about their platform and talk about why the libertarian or independents have to go out and get signatures just to be on the ballot with Republicans and Democrats. Why is it that we only have two primary parties? You all know I ran as an independent in 2020. And so that's something dear to my heart. Every voter should have that right. And to me, that's voter suppression, when you're not allowed to know all the candidates that are on the ballot. All right, so the goal of Issues and Answers with yours truly, Honorable Stovall, is to educate you on those things you might not think about unless you're in a situation to be concerned. Of course, if you have show ideas, send me an email to contact@gostovall.com. That's CONTACT@gostovall.com. We want to thank you again for joining us on Issues and Answers with WCEG Talk Radio. And we will see you the next time on November the 7th. And remember, tonight on Clubhouse, Reaching Across the Aisle, you all log in to Clubhouse so you can be able to be a part of that conversation. All right. Good evening.